Property Perspectives by Sari is presented by CaliforniaVibes.net, finding distinctive homes for exceptional people.
Saving money to afford a down payment for a home can take time, but in some cases, you don't need as large of a down payment as you might think. Joining us now with some alternatives to those large down payments is real estate expert Sari Harner from California Vibes. Sari, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me back, Mary. It's a pleasure.
So back in the early 2000s, I bought my very first house with $5,000. And I tell my friends this, they're like, oh gosh, that's impossible. You can't do that today. But it was the best investment I have ever made because it led to many more purchases just based on that one purchase. Can you still buy a property for little down payment?
Well, that's the whole reason we're here. So many people have the misguided notion that they go with the 20% down rule. You have to have 20% down or else you can't buy, because once you're in, it sort of is, it snowballs and it helps you. So no, you don't need 20% down. And just because if you have less than 20% down, you have the PMI, which is, mortgage interest, but that is really negligible. And people think, ooh, that's a big stop. You don't need to worry about that. So there are programs that you can have even 0% down in certain cases.
Wow.
For instance, the Veterans Administration, we have a lot of veterans out here. They offer a no percent, down payment for mortgages, and not just for if you're active military, it extends to spouses and families as well.
That's fantastic.
I know. And there's also a program that allows 0% down for people. And although it's called the agricultural loan, it doesn't apply just to agricultural areas, and you can use it to purchase a home. So you have 0% down. Those are harder to get, but there are low down payments. There are special programs for our heroes, which we always like to, admire, and the firefighters, the police, the first responders, but also nurses and teachers have special loans that they can get with as little as 3% down.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It really is. And so that helps as well.
So the average person, though, what are their options?
Well, you have options. Just if you're not any of that, you can go and get a 5% down loan. Also, if you're lower income, there are help from the state government, from your local city, that gives you help with 100% of your down payment and closing costs. And if you live in the residence for over 5 years, some of it is completely forgivable and you don't need to pay it back.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Right. But you need to talk to a loan person. You need to talk to the people who have all the ins and outs. But there are loans that people don't think. You just go, oh, it's an FHA loan. Oh, I need 10% or 20%. And that's really the biggest stopping point for a lot of us, because that's a big amount of cash to come up with.
Right.
And you don't need to do that.
And what about, so if you don't qualify for some of these other programs and you only have, 5%, some cases maybe 2 or 3%.
Right.
Do you opt to pay the mortgage insurance? Is it worth doing that?
It is worth it, because when you run the numbers, it really does pay off. And then with the equity that you're building, you can even refinance and then get rid of that mortgage amount. But that number for the mortgage interest rate that you're paying, it really sometimes doesn't affect your monthly payment as much as a lot of people are concerned it does.
If you have any questions about real estate you'd like to see on our Property Perspective segment, you can go to CaliforniaVibes.net and email Sari your questions yourself. Thanks so much for being with us today, Sari.
I'm glad to be here.
And we'll be right back.